Welcome to G's Backstage Pass. Today, my guest is Shona. How are you doing, Shona?
I'm doing well, G. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Shona is an author, a coach, and a storyteller, but you are so much more than that. Who is Shona?
That's a really great question. I think a lot of people ask that question. Honestly, G, I think it's one of those situations where I have just been blessed enough, by the creator's hands to have so many different talents and skills. And, I would say that I have a very diverse background, even in the work that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
In my vocational life, but there is this creative side of me that lives and just continues to live and breathe every day. And I think that's the part where it's just like that never ends. So I think for people who know me in the business world, they know me as somebody who's very organized. I've been a project manager.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, but then there are some folks that just know the creative side, who's the poet and the author and the speaker and all this good stuff. So I would just like to say that I'm a very multidimensional person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not the kind of person who you can necessarily put in a box,
Right,
because
right.
whenever I need to use that creativity, it comes out, and that creativity helps me in my work situations. And so, I would say Shona is someone who, whenever she needs to be a certain person, she becomes that person. Whenever I am to be an author, I put my, wheels on, and I'm that person. When I'm going to be a poet, I write poetry. And so it's just wherever I am, that's just where I am. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a fellow Gemini, we can carry on many different projects and wear many different hats, and then just decide, okay, like, so I want to talk about the creative side, and I know that you're working on poetry, and you
Yes.
told me this story off camera, and I know our audience would just love to hear it.
Poetry. Honestly, I started writing poetry when I was around maybe 8 years old. I think I wrote my
Mm-hmm.
first poem, and it was for school. It was something for school. And then about 4 years after that, when I went to secondary school. So I grew up in the Eastern Caribbean. For those who are watching, grew up in a very small island in the Caribbean called Saint Vincent. And
Yes.
I was in primary school when I wrote my first poem. And then when I
Mm-hmm.
went to secondary school, I was around 12 or 13 or so when I wrote this one particular poem that I included all the teachers' names and everything. And it was really funny because it tied it into their subjects that they taught. And that was the first time I ever did poetry like live, like where I read it in front of an audience. And it was an amazing experience. So I went on to do a little bit more as time went by in my teens and my 20s. Not to start aging myself here. And then I didn't do any live poetry for probably over 20 years. And I don't know
Wow.
what was. I think I just kind of
Wow.
lost
Wow.
my voice for a little while. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly. The last time I remember doing poetry live was I was in my 20s. I wrote one for one of my cousins who was getting married, and after that I just didn't do it again. And I didn't write for a very, very long time. But an idea came to me a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago, around 2018. I was watching the news, and there was something that really struck me about a lot of things that were going on in our community. And I said, I have this feeling that I want to write a letter to my child, if I were to have one, before he or she comes, to let them know
Wow.
how I feel about that experience.
Yeah.
And I wrote that poem, and I remembered it was one of those things where it opened up this whole new feeling again, and this whole new, you know, desire to create, poetically. And I started to read it to a couple of people here and there, really good friend. And I remember people were just so touched by it. And later that same year, I was supposed to host a women's summit. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a poem for that event. And
Mm-hmm.
that came out truly well. I wrote it just for that event. And I was just like, wow, there's something that's happening here. Like my creative energy, my poetic creative energy
Mm-hmm.
is resurfacing, and it's coming back with a bang. And gee, I just started writing and writing, and I literally just wrote like a ton of poems in my phone. I always have my phone with me, and I figure, why not just use my notes page and
Right?
write when these thoughts came to me, you know? And so
Right?
I literally wrote maybe over 75 poems over the course of
Wow.
several months. And I said, you know what? It's time. It's time to publish some of these and to get them in print, because I had gotten stuff in print before, like as a teenager in my 20s, literary magazines of sorts. But this time I'm like, no, it's time for me to really put myself out there and share with this world this poetic experience and being that I am.
Wow. And this isn't your first book that you're publishing. You have a book already out that Sandy actually contributed to. Tell
Yes,
us about
yes.
that.
Yes,
Yes.
it's this book right here, Letters to Girls Who Dream of Flying. And,
Love the
you know,
title. Love the
thank you
title.
so much. It's still on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this in, I would say, I started it, the idea started around 2014. Now, you know how for me as a creative person, how the creative
Mm-hmm.
process goes, it does not happen overnight. The
Right.
thoughts about this book came to me around 2014. I was going through a very difficult time, you know, with work situation, health situation, and a number
Mm.
of things were all kind of happening all at once. And I remembered I saw this news story about this woman who had been in a very abusive relationship.
Oh
And I
no.
said, God, I just wish I could just write to her and let her know that, you know, that she doesn't have to sit in this and accept this. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, there's always a way out. And I wanted to tell her that, you know, I mean, at the time I was out of a job. I'll be honest with you. I was out of work, and here I
Yeah.
was still hopeful. And I knew that there were things that I could do in the meantime. And so I thought, if I could just write to her and let her know that sometimes, you
Hmm.
know, you don't always have to have it all together. Like, we go through challenges, and you know, we can definitely support ourselves, but we have to love ourselves first.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wish I could write her a letter. And then I thought, well, that would be great and all, but how about I ask some of my female friends how
Mm-hmm.
they feel about life and challenges, and what uplifts them, and what things about their childhood, you know, they've experienced, and what did they want to be when they grow up, and what they are
Yeah.
now. And so I just started to reach out to some girlfriends, and I reached out to about 30 something of them, and you know, about 20 something said yes. And I created these questions that I asked all of them, and that
Mm-hmm.
was what the book was really about. It's just, you know, hearing the stories from women of different backgrounds, very, very diverse backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
different religions, you know, different races, and different thoughts, streams of thoughts, and to hear them come together and speak about their experiences. You can see the commonalities, but you can also see that there's so much hope in all of their
Yeah.
experiences. So, yeah, so that's how that came about. I know I'm long winded, but you know, I'm a storyteller,
Hey,
so I
hey,
have to
no,
tell the
no, but
story.
it's fascinating that if you ask different people the same question, right? You obviously get different perspectives, but then you also get a similarity to it. Like it's like we're all connected somehow,
Yeah,
no matter what our race is or where we're from or religion or culture or anything. It's like, when you just talk about the humanity of it,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I believe that wholeheartedly. And you know,
yeah,
I've always been someone who have wholeheartedly embraced differences, people who are different, people with different
yeah,
thoughts. I think maybe from a child, and I've always sort of been that way. I don't ever want to have anybody feel excluded. You know, thus I feel very emotional or very hurt when I get excluded. You know,
mm-hmm,
because I know I've tried over the years, all my life, to always include people. You know, regardless. I remember growing up in St. Vincent, and there was this little girl. She was around my age, but she had some some mental, I guess, issues, or a
mm,
little bit slower, you know, in terms of her mental capacity. And I remembered she and I were really close, tight friends. Her name was Maria. Gosh, I just remember
mm-hmm.
the name, just
Wow,
came to me.
wow,
And I remember playing with her, and you know, a lot of folks. She had a little bit of a speech impediment too, and a lot of people didn't really give her the time of day. And I just remember just spending time with her and just having a fun time as a child. And those are the experiences that come back to me. And
Yeah.
even as a 20 something being in college, I remember I was very close friend with this guy who was very goth, this
Mhm.
really tall guy. He was in the English program, um, white guy, and just sort of, in his own world. But some people would look at him and say, oh, he's a little strange, he's a little different. But we connected on
Yeah.
literature, we connected on creativity and poetry, and we were like, such great friends. I mean, it was just one of those things where I don't see all of that. I see how I connect with you as a human being,
Right.
and what kind of experiences that you have that I might have had.
Right.
How can we share joy? How could we enrich each other's spirits? You know what I mean? So to
Yeah.
me, that's important. That's important.
Yeah, and you help people with public speaking, and you've
Yeah.
been doing a lot of public speaking with Toastmasters and won all these awards and everything. What do you think, just off the top of your head, right? What would you say are like the top three qualities or ideas that you have for, getting the confidence and everything to have that when you're doing public speaking?
Oh gosh, the three top qualities. Number one, try not to be perfect. And there's a
Yes.
reason for that. When
Yes.
you strive for too much perfection, you put it off and you put it
Mm-hmm.
off and you put it off, and you
Mm-hmm.
never get there, right? Because you're searching for that perfection. I think
Right.
that's the first thing.
Yes.
Because the thing is, if you're working with a mentor, like say I'm a mentor in that program, if you're working with me, we will go
Mhm.
over different things in terms of, body language and the content of your speech and how you deliver and all those different things, right? And how effective, are you as you're getting ready, and even your readiness. So
Mhm.
these are the things that you work on. So it's not about striving for perfection. It's about how do you get the message out there. So that's the first thing, not to strive for perfection. The second thing is really and truly be yourself.
Yes.
And when I say be
Yes.
yourself, be your authentic self. I know we use that word so much, but be your
Yes.
authentic self. So if you have an accent like I do, and some people don't notice it right away, my Caribbean accent comes out sometimes when I'm speaking or when I'm reading or presenting. That actually makes me quite unique, G. So
Yes, it
why not
does.
go with that?
Yes.
Make that part of the experience. And so I think that's the second thing. And I think the third thing is um, be brave. Be brave
Yes.
in the sense that you're doing something that a lot of people are terrified to do in the
Yes.
first place. Do you know
Yes.
that there was a survey years ago that said that the number one thing that people are most afraid of is public speaking?
Yes.
It was
I
even
know.
it was higher
Oh,
than death.
I know. Or spiders, because spiders is my number one fear. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that, we see this with Rockstar. We see this with, I mean, Sandy is a prime example. She was terrified of public speaking before,
Mhm.
we worked together and we got the podcast going and everything. And now
Yeah,
you just put mic and headphones or phone or whatever, a microphone in front of her and she can talk because that, like you said, those are like the most important things. We can't focus on it being perfect.
absolutely.
You have to really just, if you feel authentic about what you're saying and just like the way you present, it just comes out. And it's
It,
structured, it's put together. It's not just talking for talking, but it's so professional. That's the way
absolutely,
I would say in the
absolutely,
music business. Everyone's either a
absolutely.
professional or an amateur, and it's not a good or bad. It's just that's what I just love the way when you speak, it grabs it feels like a Maya Angelou or Obama or Oprah.
Oh, thank
I'm
you. What
serious.
a
I'm
high
being
compliment.
serious.
What a high compliment. No, I
No,
think
no, you have that. People
thank
have
you.
some people have that, and that's something that is just it's a skill you have that you just keep mastering and mastering, and you're just brilliant at it.
Oh, well, thank
Seriously,
you so much. And
yeah,
I think, it's important that it's so important and interesting that you mentioned that because, one of the speeches that I've given in the past is about how do you brand yourself?
Mhm.
Because we're all each our own brand.
Mhm.
So I've created a brand for myself as a public speaker. I have
Mhm.
a brand when it comes to being a coach. I'm a life coach and trainer, and that's what I do for a living. So I
Mhm.
train people on how to prepare for giving speeches or keynote addresses, things like that. I have a client right now who's getting ready to give a keynote for the very first time. And she
Oh,
came to me
wow.
and she's like, listen, I've been with you before in Toastmasters. I need some help here. I know you're not gonna, just give me a rotten, critique. You're gonna tell me how it
Yeah.
is. You're gonna really try to help me out here and how to push me forward. And so it was just nice to have that confidence from someone who says, yeah, I
Yeah.
know you, I know your style, I know how you're going to go about doing this. So that's really, really good to know. But coming back to the whole brand thing, it's even
Mhm.
about how you present yourself to the world. I always tell people when you're ready for, and that's it's not just public speaking. When you go to the interview, when you meet
Mhm.
someone for the first time, they're gonna remember, how you were, and you might have had a bad day, but still show up with your shoulders up. I remember being a kid, and again, this goes back to my storytelling. And if we were upset as kids, our grandmother would say, okay, I know you're upset, I know you're sad, but when you're walking, hold your head up high and
Yes.
walk, you know?
Yes.
Hold your head up high. And as kids, we did that. We walked with our head up high. We might have been so
Yes.
upset because, we got scolded earlier, but we still held our
Just
head up.
gotta shrug it off and just yes, it's like going on
Yeah.
stage. It's like
Yeah.
with these artists, even a lot of artists had bad days. They had personal things going on, but then whenever the lights go down and it's time to perform, you hit that switch and you just have to put all that stuff aside, go do the gig, the show, right? Like you're
Yeah.
doing the performance,
Yeah.
and then they come off stage and then they go back into oh god,
Oh,
and
I'm
it's
telling
like a
you.
switch,
You
you
know what
know?
I'm talking about. And it is
Yeah.
a switch because there have been times I remember very clearly about around 2018 when I was hosting that event, the Women's
Mm-hmm.
Summit. Um, I was asked to host that event, and I remembered I told the organizers, I said, I think I only told a couple of them, I said, I will be writing an original poem for this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be dedicated to women. And they're just like, you are? I said, yes. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, I can't believe I just put myself into
Right? You committed to it.
this.
You committed
And
to it.
so,
Yes.
and so remembered in the past, someone had said to me, someone had critiqued my poetry and said, because I did a poem, I think, during something else, and they said, it would be great if you can just memorize the entire thing, and then that way you don't have to look at a sheet of paper or anything. And I thought, I'm gonna push myself a little bit here and memorize this poem.
Mhm.
Again, putting a little bit more pressure on myself,
Right.
challenging myself. And gee, it took me several weeks to prepare for that event.
Uh-huh.
It didn't take very long to write the poem
Right.
because the title came first. It was called If You Believe.
If
And
you
If
believe.
You
Love it.
Believe, the title came first, and then the
Yes.
words just came together. And I
Mhm.
found a way to rhyme it so that I would remember where to start and finish. And I
Mhm.
remember day after day, I would get into my car, I'd be practicing this speech.
Yes.
When I'm in the getting ready in the mirror in the morning, I'm saying the speech. I'm in the car, I'm saying the speech, and I'm thinking, people are probably thinking she's crazy over there. What is she doing talking to herself? But you know what? Whatever it took. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
would be at home and I would just get up and I would start saying it because I knew for me, memorization might not be my top skill, but if I spent the time to prepare
Mhm.
and prepare for this, that it was going
Yes.
to be okay. But here's the other thing, too. Here's the other challenge to it. I
Mhm.
added music behind it. I added some dramatic
Nice.
music that at a certain point, it sort of had a crescendo. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay,
Yes.
so this is timed now, right? It's a
Yes.
3-minute poem. It's timed. It's got
Wow.
this music, and then my voice, the cadence and the intonation of
Yes.
the voice is changing as I give this speech. And the day of, I am so nervous. Like, oh my God. What did I
How did you overcome your nerves then
Well,
to
I'm going to tell
do
you.
that?
I did a couple. Well, first of all, there was something that kind of reminded me about the purpose, about the why. I was
Yes.
practicing that morning. I was in the auditorium, it was empty. and there was a guy who was doing the lighting, and he heard me reciting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered after I was done, I was walking down to go check on something, maybe the lighting or something. And he stopped me on my way down. And he said, "You just gave me chills all through my
Wow.
body, and you are going to change somebody's life today."
Wow. I'm getting chills right now. Seriously, that's
And I was
amazing.
just like, "What?" He said,
Yep.
"Your spirit, in the
Yep.
way you recited that,
Mm.
is going to change some lives today."
Wow.
And I remember, gee, I was just like struck, and I remembered him talking about God and stuff. And I was standing there
Yeah.
and tears are welling up in my eyes. And I'm just like, okay, I was meant to do this.
Yes.
This is the reason why I'm here, because words can touch people and they
Yes.
can heal people. And
Yes.
so I'm going to be okay. But so that was the first thing. It was that, sort of, how should I say, his oh gosh, I can't think of the word right now, but the validation that I got from him,
Yes.
the
Yes.
support that I got from him in that moment,
Yes.
it just felt really good and inspiring to me. And I remembered I had it written on the poem written on a piece of paper, and I slipped it in my pocket, and I said, if anything, I can always pull it out. I know it's there,
Yes.
right? I don't think anybody will,
Right.
put it against me that I used
Right.
it. So it was there as a little bit of a security. And then the
Mm-hmm.
moment came, the end of the show, nobody was expecting this. And then they started to dim the lights a certain way, because I had
Mm-hmm.
planned for the lighting guys had said, we're gonna switch the lighting a little bit when you're talking about this so that you can have a different feel. And I was the only
Yes.
speaker that did that for. And I was just like, how incredible is this? So you've got this music and you've got
Yes.
this, the sound and the lighting, and then there's me in front of
Yeah.
this audience.
You're the
And
rock star.
at that moment, I was the rock star,
You are.
and I said it without using my notes. And I remembered I could feel my voice sort of rising and rising as I did it. And I
Yes.
saw my CEO sitting on the steps in the auditorium, because the seats were filled up where she was. And she's sitting there and she's looking at me. And then there's this guy who was like a mentor of mine sitting
Mm-hmm.
there. And I
Mm-hmm.
see him. I just kind of eye a couple of people here and there. And I see the look in his face. And then all of a sudden, it was over. And people were standing up, like rising,
Wow.
applauding. And I was just like, what just happened?
See?
What just happened? But that destiny was fulfilled. It was
Yes.
fulfilled right in that moment. And if you believe, I think I read it several times after that. It's going to be in the book. The
Nice.
other poem that I mentioned earlier that inspired me to start writing again will be in the book,
Yes.
poetry. So it's just those feelings that keep me connected to this, because I know at the end of the day, this is something I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah. It's like, but look at all the preparation that you put into it too. Right. And I'm sure while you're preparing, there might have been some times like, oh, this, I don't know. This is because when we face something, it can seem like it's overwhelming,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we can be like, okay. And then we let all this fear and everything get in the way. But once we really, as we say with our, marketing and everything, step into your power and channel your inner rock star. It's the same thing all these performers go through.
yeah.
It really is. Most of them off stage are very different people than they are on stage.
Absolutely. I
And
believe that 1,000%.
and you turn that switch, but just by you being yourself and confident and knowing what you're saying, having the music and the lighting and everything, I mean, oh wow, that's amazing.
That was
That's a
that was
show.
that
Yeah.
was a show. That was a
Yeah.
show. And the people who were able to stay back for that, they were just like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And so when you speak about preparation, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I
Mhm.
think that a lot of folks would look at me and they say, oh, but you're so good at this. That would be their first thing. Oh, it's no surprise you got asked to do that because you're so good at this. I said, well, there's a reason why I'm good at this.
Yes.
Like, I know that there is natural talent there, but also I have to prepare,
Yes.
and I have to, and sometimes even in the moments when I don't prepare, I have to have a plan. about
Right.
how I'm going to make it sound as though I wasn't as prepared. If that makes
Right.
sense. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
If you forget a lyric to something,
Mhm.
like I've seen this
Mhm.
with artists, they'll forget a lyric to a song and they have two choices. They can either just play it off like, hey, I wanted you to sing that part because I forgot it and go on and have a great show, or they can choose to focus on it and it'll ruin their entire show because all they're thinking the rest of the songs are, oh, I screwed up that lyric. I screwed up that lyric, like
Yeah,
so that's the professionalism that you go up there and you do the best you can. And if it
absolutely.
and what I loved about you saying that it's not perfection, if you say the wrong line or say the you just move on, you just keep going because the audience never knows.
And that's the other
That's what
piece,
people
right?
don't
The
realize.
audience
Go ahead.
doesn't know. The audience doesn't know.
Yep.
I was, and speaking of that, just last
Mm-hmm.
week I was asked to go to a Toastmasters club that wasn't my own club, and
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to give a motivational speech. And so I wrote this speech called "I'm Coming Home," and I remembered I had the outline because I figured, because what happened actually, I had written one speech, and literally, an hour before, I changed the entire speech.
Change the whole speech.
The whole speech. It wasn't flowing like I thought it would flow when
Right.
I practiced
Okay.
it. And I
Yeah.
said,
Yep.
no, I've got to change this because something about this isn't working. And so
Right.
I was taking a risk by doing that. But I'm just like, you know what? It's going to work out because I'm speaking about something that I know about,
Yes. Your
that I have
passion
the
comes through.
expertise in, and my passion is there. And
Yes.
so I just needed an order in terms of an outline. So I
Mm-hmm.
do my little sheet thing where I put my notes behind my laptop, and the people don't know I'm standing up and
Yeah.
giving a
Yeah.
speech. And one thing was out of order. And when I realized it was out of order, they didn't know that I said out of order because they don't know what the speech is about.
They
I
don't
just,
know. They
they
don't
don't
know.
know. So I
Right.
went back in my head and I said, okay, I'm telling myself, I know I missed that one thing, but how can I go back now and squeeze it in? And I
Yes.
went back and squeezed it in, and they didn't even
They
notice.
have no
They
idea.
have no idea. And so it was all about how I transitioned
Mm-hmm.
and how I use these techniques that I've learned and
Yes.
I've taught people how to
Yes.
use your pauses, how to
Yes.
transition, how
Yes.
to, if something isn't working, use humor
Yes.
to bring down the the anxiety about certain things. So these are the things that over the years that I've learned, and I think that it's no surprise that I'm a coach now because
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with folks and partnering with them in getting to their goals and finding their voice and doing all that they're doing. But there's a process that has to happen, and I think we have to be sure of ourselves first and
Yes.
know what is it that you're trying to accomplish.
What's
What
your
is
why?
your purpose? What is your why? And so
Yes.
when
You're
people
speaking
come
my
to
language.
when people come to me and they're just like, I don't know what my purpose is. And I tell them, I said,
Yep.
well, the moment that I found out what my purpose was in life,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any issues saying what I need to say when I
Right.
need to say it
Right.
because I can tell you exactly what my purpose is and
Mm-hmm.
how that applies to the different aspects of my life. And you're like, Sean, I didn't realize that you could do that. I said, yes, you can.
It all
Make it a
starts
make
here.
it a statement. Make it a statement about yourself. What's your personal statement about yourself? Or, companies have what you called. I'm trying to think of the terms right now, but they have vision
Mi-
statements and
yeah,
things like
mission
that.
statements
Mission
and yeah,
statements. Why
yeah.
not have your own mission statement?
Absolutely.
I look at it as that. It's like basically, this is my mission statement. This is what I am on this planet to do, to accomplish.
Yes.
And once
Yes.
I decided and I determined what my purpose was in life, I was like, wow. So then any negative thing that came into that sphere, I
Yes.
knew, okay, you're not speaking towards my purpose.
Right.
This
It
is
just
not
gets
about my
deflected.
purpose.
It
Yeah,
just gets deflected
it
because
does.
it's just like if you're walking down the street and I mean you feel great about how you look, right? And somebody that you don't know comes up and makes a rude comment to you. If you're in a positive mindset, you'll just go, "Well, that guy person's crazy," and keep walking, right? But if you're walking in the same outfit, you're walking down the street, you have your hair, everything looks good, it's all good, and somebody or that you think says a comment, and we can just take that as, oh man, that just ruined my day.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like when you're public speaking is you're looking out to the audience, and if you see one person that has their arms crossed or that is given negative energy, maybe they're having problems in their life. Has nothing to do with you. But if you focus on that energy, that can take away all the energy. But you just got to let it go and just focus. Find that person in the audience that loves it. Your
Absolutely.
super fan, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and so happy that you said that too, because I remember in the past, whenever I would do something major, or any sort of presentation outside of Toastmasters, I would
Mm-hmm.
always try to find someone in the audience I could connect with. But more than that, I would show up early to make sure that I can get a feel for the room. Now, that's a great tip. If you're
Yes.
speaking somewhere that's unfamiliar, get
Yes.
there, get to the venue early, get
Yes.
familiar with the space, touch the
Mm-hmm.
desk, touch the
Mm-hmm.
lectern, go up in front of it, pretend that you're giving a talk when nobody's there, because by the time people start to come in, you already
Mm-hmm.
familiarize yourself with the area, with the space,
Yes.
right? And
Yes. Is
so I've had people who have worked with, and they'll say, well, I'm giving this speech and I know you're going to be there. Where do I look? What if I look over here? I said, just find me.
right.
Find me in the audience. Like
Right.
I've had Toastmasters who are competing, and I will go to their contests and I'll say, find me in the audience. And they
Yes.
say, okay. I said, find me because I'll be the one with the smile on my face. I
Yes.
know how much this means to you. So find me.
Yes.
And then they do, and they're just like, oh my God, I saw you in the audience and you were smiling and it made me feel. So there it is. It's
Because they're
finding,
having a conversation with you.
there you go.
They're
And
focused on just talking to you.
their support is there, their
Yep.
ally is there,
Yep.
somebody who's there for them. So, I think everything kind of comes together, the storytelling for
Yep.
me, the writing, the poetry. And it's no surprise because my great grandmother, I grew up in a multi generational home in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean. And
Mm-hmm.
my great grandmother, mother, myself, sister, cousins lived in the same house.
Wow.
There were four generations in that house, and my great grandmother, her name was Justina Crease, was
Yeah.
famous for telling stories, especially when the island lost electricity, which
Right?
is
Was it
pretty often in the
right?
Caribbean. She
Right?
would tell us these stories, about, folklore, or they
Yeah.
call them Jumbie stories or ghost stories.
Yeah.
And she was an excellent storyteller. But here's the thing, G. She wasn't a very highly educated woman, but
Hmm.
she knew how to tell stories. She
Yes.
knew how to connect. I
Yes.
think that's all the education that she needed. That's
Yes.
all the education she needed.
So
Yeah.
you've been on Sandy's our podcast, All Things
Mhm.
Relax with Sandy D, and she has her signature questions. So I came up with actually she came up with this one. It was over my head. I was gonna ask you like what's the best thing you like about your job and everything, and she's like you should ask your guest who's their favorite rock star, and I'm like oh that's a good one,
Oh,
and it doesn't have to be like rock music or even
right,
music. It's just
right.
like I'm like, ooh, because that's why I love Sandy. I mean, she's awesome. She comes out with this like just the name of your show is, Backstage Pass, rock star
Yeah,
training, all that. It's
yeah.
like, who's your favorite rock star? So that's and you did not know that was coming.
No,
So
I didn't know
I'm
that was
curious.
coming. Now, if we were to really think about it in
Yeah.
the rock star sense, in the music sense,
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury will always
Oh.
be my number one rock star.
Oh, preach it. Preach it. Oh, yes.
Catch me in the car at any time playing, Queen songs. I mean, forget about it. And there's one that he has. I forget the title of it right now. It'll come to me in a second. But when I sit in the car and I sing that, it's
Mm-hmm.
pure poetry. It's
Yes.
absolutely. And I'm trying to think of the name. I have to think of this later. But
We'll
anyway,
we'll get it off camera. I
yeah,
know
we'll get
it's
it off
probably the
camera.
same
But
song I'm thinking about. Did you see
yeah.
the movie that Rami was in? Did you see
Oh, yes. And
does that
he did an
yes.
incredible job because
Wow.
there's certain mannerisms that Freddie has. And it's just
Yes.
like, the way he moved, the way I love Rami, and I just love the way he represented Freddie in that movie. And he was so worth that Oscar that year. So worth
Yeah.
it. I knew he was going to get it. I said it
Yeah, I
when
knew
he
too. I
France.
was
I'm
like, if
like,
he doesn't get
he's
it,
going
there's
to win
something
that.
wrong with
He's
Hollywood.
going to win that. But I think when it comes to Rockstar, when you think about people who I like that are in the industry. I love
Mhm.
Catherine O'Hara. Now, if you've never heard of
Mhm.
Catherine O'Hara, she plays Moira Rose on this show called Schitt's Creek, which was like one of those
Yes.
shows that came about a few years ago. And she was in Beetlejuice.
Yes.
She was in some of the, Home Alone. She was a mom in Home Alone.
Yeah. Oh,
And
she was.
I
That's right.
think, yeah, I think she's an absolute rock star because this
Yeah.
woman, her character in Schitt's Creek, and I'm kind of like, kind of how should I say, um, giving props to her wearing my black and white today because she wears a lot of black and white on the show, and she wore a lot of
Right.
black and white in Beetlejuice.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I absolutely love this woman because I think she has such a range as an
Mhm.
actress. And when she does these voices on Schitt's Creek, with the accent that came out of nowhere, and funny little story, I actually am on TikTok and
Yes.
I do characters on there, and hers is the most favorite one that I do because I get to really mimic her and try to do some of the stuff that she does. But I just think that that woman is so incredible. Her comedic timing, her
Mhm.
ability to just pull you into whatever she's doing. I mean,
Yes.
to me, she's an ultimate rock star.
Talent.
Talent.
Talent that's been crafted and mastered over
Yeah,
many
yeah,
years, and now it's at that
yeah.
point where she just embraces whatever character she wants to be.
Yeah, she
That's
does. She does. And I love that. I love
yeah.
seeing her on screen. I love seeing her with Dan Levy,
Mhm.
and the cast of that show. It's a beautiful ensemble cast. But, when the pandemic started, I watched that show over and over. That it was like six seasons of it. I just kept watching it
Wow.
over and over again to get
Yeah.
inspiration from her so I can do these skits and stuff. But it was just a joy. And I think that, I'm a movie person. I love movies, I love TV
Yes.
shows, I love entertainment.
Yes.
And
Storytelling.
uh, there you go. And because I'm a storyteller, because people just like,
Yes.
wow, didn't realize you watch that much TV. I'm like, trust me, I watch everything. I'm intrigued. I like
Mhm.
documentaries. I like things on ID channel. I like comedies. I just love to get into that, so I can learn as much as I can because when you're telling a story, it's from the things that you know, the things that you've heard, the
Yes.
things that you've felt in your own life. So yeah, yeah.
So, aside from LinkedIn, where can people find you, work with you? This is the plug section of the show. Go at it and just plug
Yeah,
away. Plug
the,
away,
the
Shona.
plug
Go for
section.
it.
So for coaching, if anybody needs any coaching services, they can find me on my website. It's Bramble, BRAMBLE, communications with an S.com. I am also on LinkedIn as Shona Bramble, and
Mhm.
you can get access to my coaching page from there as well, from my business
Mhm.
page. And just to remind everybody, I coach people in public speaking. That's
Mhm.
one half of my role, and the other half is that I coach people in life and career issues. So that's where they can find me. My book, Letters to Girl to Dream of Flying. It's about five
Yes.
years old now. It
Yes.
is on Amazon and for a very nice little tidy price of $15. And hopefully when I get this book published, which I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go to publish it, whether self-published or otherwise,
Yes.
that will probably be on Amazon as well, but I'll have more details about that. Yeah, later. But I also have some social media sites. So this is Bram Show, B as in
Mhm.
boy, RAMSHO. If you go to Instagram, you'll find me there doing my Moira skits and things like that.
Mhm.
Or you can go straight to TikTok and look up Bram
TikTok.
Show. Straight to TikTok
Yes.
and Bram Show.
Yes.
But that's the creative side of me. That's the fun side
Yeah.
of me that just likes to release the creative energy. But
Yeah.
when it comes down to business, when it comes down to coaching, I take that quite seriously because I want to see people get to where they need to get to, or at least, you know, carve a path to get there and
Yes.
know what that path is. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Well, you're my first guest on this show. So you cracked it wide open. This is awesome. This is everything I wanted in this show. Yes. Because you're an awesome person and you just have you've just empowered so many people all over the planet, and it's so great to
Oh,
have you on the show, and to be in your circle. I know you and Sandy have known each other for a long time, and
yes.
we actually had lunch that first time right before COVID, and
Right before
we
COVID.
haven't
Yeah.
seen each other in person yet since. So we've got to, Sandy and I, we're going to come down there. We got to catch up.
We have
You're
to catch
awesome.
up. And I have to say,
Yeah.
thank you to both of you because both of you have inspired me.
Oh,
Honestly, have inspired me with what you're doing with your shows and your podcasts and your energy, your teaching people about how to be rock stars and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's
Thanks.
incredible because it's not about learning it on your, learning it for yourself, but it's sharing it with other people as well. And I
Yes.
think that's what makes life interesting and and
Yeah.
and worth living. That you're not just keeping it just for you, you're sharing it. And I've gotten tips from her podcast because I started my own podcast last year.
Yes.
Growing up Caribbean, I forgot about that. Growing up
Oh, yes.
Caribbean,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
I talk about life growing up in the Caribbean with different folks from different islands. So it's all about sharing experiences, and you guys have been so gracious
Oh,
and so
thank you.
wonderful in bringing me onto your shows and
Yeah.
allowing me the opportunity to tell people about who I am, who Shona is. So thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming on, and yeah, feel free. We'll put everything in the comments and in the post and things, how people can get a hold of you. So I just want to thank you again, Shona. You're a rock star. This is awesome. I'm so excited for the poetry book to come out. I
Yes,
can't
yes,
wait.
yes. So am I. I'm buzzing. I'm ready. I'm like, it's time for this to be birthed, It's time.
Yes.
It's time.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely have you back on again as we get more things going. So, all right, Rockstar Shona. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
See ya.
Great. See you,
Okay.
Julie. Bye
See ya. Yep.
bye.